Mr. Steve back, and this is an update for Blender 4.5 Alpha. However, Blender 4.4.3 is currently out. For Windows, you can download that right here at blender.org. That is of April 29th, 2025. If you've got Mac or Linux or something else, then you can download down here. However, what we're going to do is go down to Experimental, go ahead and click on that. And to follow along with this tutorial, you'll need to grab Blender 4.5 Alpha, and it's going to be for May 3rd, 2025. Let's jump right in. All right, now if I would have seen this first, this would have been my first update, kind of like a hook for the video, right? So Viewer Node now has shortcuts, and I may slide this to the beginning. You guys, you're gonna get it how you get it. So Viewer Node, cool. You can see I got a little noise, set position, whatever, normal. And if you press 1, it says shortcut 1 is not assigned to the viewer node, and all the way up to 9. Okay. But if we grab this viewer node and press Control 1, guess what we got? We've got a preset. And if I come back to the noise and I'll click to add here and I'll hit Control 2. So now if I hit 1, I get this. If I hit 2, I get nothing basically. But it's okay. So if I come up here and I'll press Control 3, let's go back. 1, 2, 3. Let's hear it for Blender. Let's hear it for Blender. Let's hear it for Blender. No more of that switching around garbage. That's a nice update. I'm really glad I'm digging through this thing. You guys make sure to like this thing. And I'm sure we're all familiar with our favorite way of looking at a scene back in the day when denoising just wasn't very good. But now you can turn on denoise, and better than optics, the open image denoise is now going to use GPU. And you can see it right here. You'll have some different options as usual. Balanced, high, fast, so on. Now we come on down to performance. I actually want to bring performance up. Some of these I'd like to see in different places. If you come down to performance and compositor, then you will also have CPU and GPU as an option here, and you'll have denoise nodes preset to auto. If you want this to be on GPU, you can do that, and the recovery in denoise is like 1 to 2 seconds on my NVIDIA 3060. Not bad. Get on over and check that out. Good feature. Now straight away you'll notice some differences. On the right, I'm using Blender 4.5 Alpha. Be careful using project files in this. I wouldn't import anything, you could lose all of your data. On the left, I've got Blender 4.3, just a little earlier version, and it's great and stable, but you'll notice that the box mask has some differences between the new versions, and how this looks by the time it comes out, because this is May 3rd, 2025, could be just a little bit different, we don't know, but we do have an exposed rotation socket for the box mask in compositing. This is really cool. Aside from that, if you were to Control-Shift-Click on this and then turn on backdrop, we've got something a little bit different. Let's do the same over here, turn on the backdrop, and we notice we've got some new controls. I can actually do some rotations here. I can actually move it around, and then if I wish, and let me go ahead and just straighten that back up, we can grab the edges and scale this box mask. Now, go in, type in ellipse mask. Guess what? We are going to get the exact same thing. We'll now have these options to move it around. The points for the four corners will kind of stay here the whole time to give you a good position to grab. The next notable change is one of my favorite nodes. It's going to be the glare node, which is our old school EV engine bloom. So now you've got bloom here in the old version here, 4.3. It's hard to believe that's already old. You cannot pull out the noodle and type in bloom. You have to type in glare and then switch it, and it'll say glare image. Come over here to Blender 4.5 Alpha, and moving forward, you'll see this more than likely in Blender 5 as well. You'll be able to type in bloom as it should be. So now we'll be able to select that in the future, and I think bloom is going to get even better. And don't forget, there are now a lot of inputs over here on the new glare node as well. This is going to make modifications and customizations so much better. And let's just take a quick moment over here at my Blender Market page, and I'll show you guys 75% off of all of my add-ons for a summer kickoff. I really appreciate you guys and everyone who's subbed up and all y'all that stopped by the channel, like everything. Amazing. I appreciate you guys. So you can come through here. I've got image referencing, anti-crash prevention on render before, during, and after. It'll save your files, do crazy stuff. IES lighting, bevel magic. It just seamlessly joins two mesh objects. Works better on hard surface models. I've got the low poly generator. This one's crazy. Come in here and check this thing out. You can add your own custom proxies in the scene, proxy everything. It's great. Now let's get back to the updates. All right, guys, one of my favorite things, geometry nodes. I'm crazy about it, and I do Serpent's add-on creator too, so that's like node based. There's a lot of scripts that you put in there because there's a lot you can't do with just the nodes, but let's check this out. All right, so the mesh to curve node has a new face option, and that option converts each face to a cyclical curve. There's a few other things going on with that as well. The curve to mesh node has a new input for scale. Let's check it out. All right, Blender 4.5 alphas on this side and on the other side. I think if that's pointing the right way. Then you got Blender 4.3. So the mesh to curve node has the selection here, but did not have the edge and the face enum selection, which is good. And now we've got a big change as well on the curve to mesh. You just had fill caps before, so now you've got fill caps, and the curve circle is still going to have the radius, but we can now change the scale right here. So this actually, that's good. So now all that is on one node, and moving forward, you'll see that most likely in Blender 4.4 and 5. All right, now I'm checking this out. I noticed this in passing. I didn't see this one on the Blender today because there's a lot to cover, but the strings to curve, let's check that out real quick, because this could actually be a pretty big deal in obviously debugging, but right here, let's see, Hans gets the credit for this. Hans Guadi. I'm going to say that name however I can. And it goes with another update that was just done. This is now going to be compatible with the geometry, visual geometry to object. Okay, so this is pretty cool. I'll show you guys this. Let's jump back over. So each one of these characters now, because of the strings to curve node, should get their own individual name. So when you're in the graph editor checking it, debugging, each character will have an identification there. What I do want to do though is add just a little spacing here. Let's see, what else do I want to do? I was hoping to kind of extrude these a little bit, so, and I haven't used this particular node in a hot minute, so I got to figure out how to do that again. And it looks like I can just use the curve to mesh. Pretty simple. Let's do something like that. That looks superb. Now we've got a little something here, and the trim curve can add just a little bit of spice to that. Potentially, no, I got to trim it before that. Bear with me, guys. I don't do a lot of curve work. So here we go. That's cool. Just add a little spice to it like that. Now, this converts it out of geometry nodes, so be warned when you do something like this. You would come up to object. No, I don't want to make my head big. Let's get myself out of the way. You go to object, and then what you can do is, let's just do it easy. You can hit Control A and visual geometry to objects. And this works on instance things, but the strings curves is exactly that. So now what we've got is a whole bunch of curves, and each one's going to get its own folder. It gets an empty, which apparently is, apparently parented to it. I'm going to Control Z back because I didn't really want to do that. Let's see. I'm just going to move this up. So you can hide the original. You could have just found it over here, but whatever. So there you go. Now that is 2 big updates in one, and this is really going to help you guys out, I think, controlling what's going on with the curve. string node, and then the object visual geometry to objects. And just here's a little tip for you guys to follow along better. And some updates aren't even handled by Blender. They're not even mentioned by anyone. They weren't official. Go to Blender release notes over here at developer.blender.org. Clicking on Blender 4.5 LTS Alpha. And then we can come on over and start looking at things like geometry nodes, then the mesh to curve, which I just looked at. You can click here, and then generally right here, the resolve, you can click on this and you can get information. So I want you guys to be able to search all this stuff yourself, go over it, because there's things like the grease pencil and all kind of things that are updated right now. And to be honest, there's a lot of these things I am not going to cover. I just go over, a large number of certain updates. So let's drop a grease pencil stroke in, click new, and grease pencil set, grease pencil color. So this is a new one you can do right here. And I think that if you were to change this to stroke fill, so I'm trying to remember how they had it because I don't really use the grease pencil for much of anything. And then we set the color here and then come over. And that's pretty cool. So now you can change that. The opacity on there is pretty cool. Not sure if that was a new one or not. I'm not going to cover it. Just want to let you guys know that is a new node for geometry nodes. One small update, which could be very significant for some, the bounding box node now has an option to include the radius of curves and point clouds. And over here, you'll just see a Boolean checkbox for that. So now you've got that as an option. And this is absolutely huge, the camera info node. That's pretty crazy because I've been doing a lot of things in Python that I can now just come here and use a node group for. That's going to really simplify things and then give people immediate options over here once you start exporting some of these options. And then we've got the match string node with a few different options here as well. And so now it'll have starts with, ends with, or contains. So if something starts with, this is basically an if-else check. Say it starts off with the prefix of obj, okay? Or this one could be empty, maybe that starts with as well. And this, hey, if this is true, then do this, and maybe a Boolean math node to kind of start mixing some of these things up and do your checks that way. And there are some new fields nodes. So let's just go ahead and type in fields. There it is. Fields average, max, min, variance, and the average and the variance. Okay, so that's very cool. We'll pull up variance twice, pull up the average, and the max and the min. So this is also excellent. You guys have some new fields nodes to work with. Now you got group IDs on everything. You can switch between float, integer, vector, point face, face corner. Very good. Okay, that's awesome too. Now I won't go over everything, but you have an import obj, STL, PLY, CSV, and import text. These are all big. You've got some updates. Grease pencil color. We already went over that. You can set the depth as well, and you can add menu now as grease pencil submenu. All right, so performance updates. I think that as I was looking through all this, like Windows got like a 30% faster updates with the GPU rendering and things like that, and then some of the other stuff like Mac got a lot faster. You can go through all this. I will have the link in the description, of course, and probably in the comments. You guys can go through and check some of these different things out. Now, I won't go over everything, but you have an import obj, STL, PLY, CSV, and import text. These are all big. You've got some updates. Grease pencil color, we already went over that. You can set the depth as well, and you can add menu now as grease pencil submenu. All right, so performance updates. I think that as I was looking through all this, like Windows got like a 30% faster updates with the GPU rendering and things like that, and then some of the other stuff like Mac got a lot faster. You can go through all this. I will have the link in the description, of course, and probably in the comments. You guys can go through and check some of these different things out. All right, guys, one last thing. Nice update for Blender Eevee. This video is getting a little long, so next time I'll do another video, trying to keep it under 20 minutes. So you have now got a bias. It's going to remove the bug where artifacts would actually show up in the shadow. Nobody wants that. Also, if you come over here to the Blender Market page, don't forget, 75% off of all of my add-ons. Use code SUMMER2025. That sale is going to end in a few weeks and prices go back up. Once again, I really appreciate everybody watching. Thanks for being here. Smash that subscribe and smash that like if you want to see more. See you guys in the next one.